Heading into the final weekend of June official visits, Miami Hurricanes are making a strong push for one of the top defensive linemen in America.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and contributor to allhurricanes.com. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. To the everydayers out there, we are available free wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege, and they'll throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti-style tumbler with every order. Massive development over the past 24 hours with Kamarion Franklin. Five-star defensive lineman out of Lake Cormorant, Mississippi. He canceled a scheduled official visit to LSU and then quickly announced he's coming back to Miami instead. He's arriving today, Wednesday. He's planning on working out tomorrow with Jason Taylor at Legends Camp. Yeah, Legends Camp is happening tomorrow, Thursday, and I do plan to be out there, guys. So I'll take as many pictures and do as many interviews as I can. Hopefully I can catch up with Big Cam, as they call him, Kamarion Franklin. So he wants to give Miami another look before the dead period. He wants to get in some work, most importantly with Jason Taylor, because he loves JT and working out with the Pro Football Hall of Famer. He wants to get another look at Miami and feel the vibe. He's going to arrive today, hang out on campus and at the facilities, work out tomorrow. He wants to get this in before he makes his final decision. So Kamarion Franklin, he's already been on campus multiple times, including earlier this month. He made his official visit to Miami back on the first weekend of June. After that, my understanding coming out of that visit a few weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, was that the visit went very well and that he likes Miami, loves Jason Taylor. I was told that maybe he was a little bit torn by the idea that he really wants to play in the SEC. More on that in a second. But then, maybe the idea of getting personally coached by a Pro Football Hall of Famer might be starting to perhaps outweigh that SEC desire for him. We'll see. So all of this, Kamarion Franklin coming back to campus, at the end of the June official visit period. This is obviously a very encouraging development for Miami. I'm not quite ready to drop a Donno ball for him just yet. Now, I did ask someone who's been a pretty good source for me in the recent past this morning, what the temperature looks like between Miami and Kamarion Franklin heading into this weekend. And he responded in all caps, hot. That was his response. So there's definitely something brewing here. Now, Miami aren't considered the favorites by the national media and the recruiting services. So Franklin, he's fresh off a visit to Tennessee. The Volunteers had been considered the leaders, depending on where you look, either very slight leaders with Miami right there or big-time leaders in other places. I would estimate, just to be fair, just based on the way the trends have been going, I would estimate Tennessee might still be leading Miami here, but that the Hurricanes have a huge opportunity this weekend and at Legends Camp. And again, he's coming back here on his own dime. This is not an official visit like he took to Miami a few weeks ago. This is unofficial, paying his way down here to give Miami another look. So all I'm going to say is I hope Mario Cristobal has his loafers on, because the loafers are for closers, as we came to find out last cycle. And, for more info on Kamarion Franklin, this dude absolutely tore up Mississippi high school football last year, setting records left and right. Had 73 tackles, 22 tackles for loss, and a school record at Lake Cormorant, 17 sacks last year. He also had 48 quarterback pressures, 27 quarterback hits, 6'5", around 265 pounds. He's a five-star and one of the best players in the class for a reason. So it's definitely looking like a Miami versus Tennessee battle for him. LSU apparently out of the picture, because I don't think he would cancel a visit to LSU if you were going to commit there. So it's looking like a Tennessee versus Miami battle. And, things are trending, over the last couple of days a little bit more in Miami's favor. We'll see how that workout goes for him and how that visit goes for him. I feel like today's show is basically going to be a Jason Taylor love fest. JT has Miami hot in the conversation with basically all of the top defensive linemen in the class of 2024, whether you play in the interior or on the edge. Jason Taylor has his fingerprints all over this recruiting class. And, another one that I'm looking at who is visiting this weekend is Marquise Lightfoot. I know our fan base really likes him. I see, people who comment on Locked On Canes and people in our subtext community really like Marquise. 4-star edge rusher out of Chicago, Illinois. He's been a fast riser. His stock has gone up a lot in the recruiting scene recently. 6'5", 220 pounds. Just the stature, he reminds me a little bit of a young Jason Taylor, okay? So Marquise Lightfoot, he has been crystal balled to Ohio State by Steve Wiltfong within the last couple of weeks. There was a lot of buzz for Ohio State coming out of Marquise's visit there to OSU, but obviously it's a good sign that he came out of that visit without verbally committing. He's still uncommitted, so Miami definitely has a shot here with Marquise Lightfoot. His top three are Ohio State, USC, and Miami. Obviously, I like Miami getting the final official visit for him. He's going to be on campus this weekend. And Marquise Lightfoot, I saw this quote. I think that this came out this morning, Wednesday morning. He said this about Miami to On3 Sports. He said, Miami is somewhere I want to end up. I told Coach Jason Taylor that I really see him as my coach, and that's somewhere I want to be. So on this visit, I expect to see his coaching skills, the football side of it, because I already know I'm a great fit at Miami, he said. I told him, being Jason Taylor, that I know that that's where they're at, they being Miami. So that's where Miami is at with Marquise Lightfoot. It's looking like an Ohio State versus Miami battle for him. I asked one of my recruiting analyst friends this morning about Lightfoot. He told me it might even be 50-50 at this point. So there's definitely an opportunity there, and we'll see if Jason Taylor can start closing on some of these top players. Elsewhere, pretty interesting note on another top edge rusher or maybe a linebacker. He can potentially fit multiple roles here. And more notes on some of the visitors this coming weekend. 5-star Jeremiah Smith is going to be on campus. That's, could be another Miami versus Ohio State battle, with Ohio State holding a sizable lead there, of course, being where he's verbally committed to. You've got another wide receiver from a local high school, Jacory Barney, is going to be on campus. And a new development with a 4-star tight end that I thought Miami was out of it for. And then suddenly, just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. Miami's back in it for Corey Duff. So we have so much to talk about. You want to keep it locked right here to Locked On Canes. It's the first day of summer, officially. If you live in South Florida, it feels like summer for most of the year, but it's especially hot this week and especially hot today. I am so glad I have my bird dog shorts on. First of all, if you don't mind me saying this, my legs look fantastic in these bird dog shorts. I'll have to pop a picture on the screen next time we talk about bird dogs. My wife has complimented my legs in these bird dog shorts. They stretch, they breathe. They feel so comfortable, but they look so casual. Guys, these are the perfect shorts for wearing around the golf course, around town, around the pool. Bird Dog stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. They do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but they fit way better. And Bird Dogs uses anti-stink sweat whipping fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. Go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege and you can get a free Yeti style tumbler. I love this thing. Get one of these with every order. That's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege for a free Yeti style tumbler. You won't want to take your bird dogs off. We promise you. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. And for the everydayers, if you want to take your everydayer experience to the next level, I highly recommend, especially this time of year, official visits happening this weekend, hopefully more verbal commits coming down for Miami very soon. You want to join our exclusive SMS texting service through Subtext. I'm including a link in the show description below if you want to try it completely free for 14 days. I give you guys text message updates on the show and on the Miami Hurricanes and on recruiting directly to your phone from my phone, and all the messages come from me. I don't have any social media interns or anything like that. They all come directly from me. That's where we drop the Donno balls. Like, you'll see Donno balls dropped on this show sometimes, but we drop them first on the SMS texting service. So you can click the link in the show description below, Sign up free for the first 14 days. And then if you want to opt in after that, $4.99 a month, we give you a lot of added value on there through the messaging service. So, all right, this is not a player visiting this weekend, but just visited last weekend that I'm hearing some encouraging signs for. I'm feeling better and better about where Miami stands with 4-star edge Elias Rudolph from Deerfield Beach. He visited again last weekend. This is another player that Jason Taylor made a major impression on. So with Rudolph, Miami got into the game very late, which was a geographical thing more than anything, because Rudolph, through his first 3 years of high school football and for his entire life, was living up in Ohio, was living in Cincinnati, Ohio, after completing his junior season at Taft High School, where he played great. And Taft in Cincinnati, I'm told, is a very good school in that region. But, he moved down to Deerfield Beach. That's where he's going to play his senior season of high school. And Miami hadn't really seen him because, Miami's coaches don't necessarily like to offer players that they haven't seen in person. They got a look at him a few weeks ago at the Palm Beach Jamboree, and he was the alpha. Like, he was the alpha dog in that event. Miami gave him an offer a few weeks ago. So Miami got into it late with Elias Rudolph. Michigan has been the trending leader for him. His recruitment was very Big Ten centric, but it sounds like Miami has really closed the gap, and I'm starting to feel very encouraged by Miami's chances with Elias Rudolph. And that's notable because that goes to show you how well his visit went this past weekend, because heading into that visit, I was very pessimistic. I thought, hey, we got into it too late. Michigan has way too big of a lead here and, can't make up that much ground in a short period of time. It seems like Miami has made up a lot of ground there. So, we'll see what happens. Michigan have been the sizable favorites, but it looks like Miami is closing the gap. Another player that I've been pessimistic about that I'm starting to feel a tad more optimistic, a tad more. Okay. I had a conversation this morning with a pretty well-connected individual about 5-star wide receiver Jeremiah Smith. Okay. And, whatever happens with Jeremiah, Miami fans are going to be wrapped up in this right until he signs a national letter of intent, wherever that might be. So he loves Brian Hartline. He's an Ohio State verbal commit. He seems pretty solid to Ohio State, even though he has taken visits to Florida, and he's going to be at Miami this weekend and some other places, I'm sure. But, I've been very pessimistic, but I was told this morning that maybe Miami has a better chance with Jeremiah Smith than I originally thought. And that, he's definitely going to be keeping an eye on Miami. Now, the conversation that I had doesn't drastically change anything because, folks, there's a common denominator here, right? There's a common denominator. Like, I can tell you, hey, yesterday I thought Miami had like a 1% chance at Jeremiah. Maybe they have a 15% chance. Now, the common denominator still is, if you expect him at any point before he signs a national letter of intent to flip from Ohio State to Miami, he's going to be watching Miami this season. Miami's got to show that they can score points, that they can go vertical, that the wide receivers are going to be featured in this offense. And yeah, you also have to win games. Like, if you go 6-6, but with a really fun offense, but you're still, you're not winning games, that may not help you too much either. But, maybe there's more hope with Jeremiah than I initially thought. We'll see how this plays out. So he is going to be on an OV this weekend at Miami, and you love to see it. And again, I want the ambassador, Judd Anderson, to spend a lot of time with him and just sing that Miami gospel, and maybe you can get him even more encouraged about what's happening down here in Coral Gables. But in addition to Jeremiah Smith, who's arguably the top player in the entire class, Miami is going to have another excellent wide receiver on campus for an official visit this weekend, and that's 4-star Miami Palmetto wide receiver Jacory Barney. He was a late addition to the guest list, but he is coming this weekend, and I'm glad he is. Now, Jacory Barney, looks like Miami is trying to change the complexion of his recruitment. He has, in the recent past, been crystal balled to the Nebraska Cornhuskers of all places. I can't imagine a kid who goes to Miami Palmetto is dying to go to Nebraska, but he has been crystal balled there as recently as June 4th, coming off an official visit there. But Miami has now entered the chat, as we say, and it looks like there's a serious push here. In fact, just yesterday, my pal Gary Furman, who runs the On3 Miami site, canesport.com, Gary Furman logged what they call the on-3 prediction, or the RPM, the expert. It's their version of the crystal ball, okay? He logged the on-3 version of a crystal ball for Miami to land Barney. So that tells you something's heating up there. This is a really interesting player, Barney. You notice in recent cycles, Miami's been trying to add a lot of speed on offense. Chris Wheatley-Humphrey, burner. Chris Johnson, who's coming in this year, class of 2023 running back. He is a burner. You landed Tyler Harrell, who's a speedster. Ray Joseph, Robbie Washington, burners. Jacory Barney is one of these. He's a little bit slight of frame, 6 foot tall, 160 pounds, but he's a former junior Olympic track star. He's got blazing speed. And, he actually, this is definitely a compliment. He looks bigger on tape. Like, he plays bigger than his, alleged 6 foot, 160 pound frame would indicate. So maybe he uses his size or lack thereof in ways that, look better than they sound, if that makes any sense. So I'm interested to see how things trend with Jacory Barney, but this is a player that I really, really, really like. So Miami can maybe make some big progress there. This is interesting. Miami is back in it for one of the better tight ends in the class of 2024. We thought the Hurricanes were out of the race, but things are starting to trend again in that direction. We'll explain who we're talking about when we come back right here on Locked On Canes. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen today. Don't miss Locked On NBA Draft live on Thursday night. Pick-by-pick analysis from our stable of local NBA hosts, national reaction from our NBA Big Board hosts, and live check-ins from inside the NBA Draft. Locked On NBA Draft Live starts at 7:30 p.m. on the Locked On NBA YouTube page on Thursday night. So make sure you check that out. We mentioned this on yesterday's show, and it did come to fruition last night. Miami did not land 4-star linebacker James Nesta. James Nesta is taking his talents to Norman, Oklahoma. I mean, good get for Brett Venables and company there. And this is a player that Miami wanted, like James Nesta, a linebacker that Derek Nicholson thinks really fits the Miami profile. He's also a baseball player, so maybe he could have helped the baseball team as well. I kind of wonder if Miami not having a baseball coach right now might have actually hurt his recruitment, that if Miami had a baseball coach that could be recruiting him in concert with the football coaches, if maybe he would be a Cane. We'll never know. Like, he's an Oklahoma Sooner. God bless you. Good for you. So Miami needs to turn their attention elsewhere. So I think it's very important to hit the official visit this weekend with Chris Cole out of the park. Chris Cole, the nephew of Rohan Marley, former awesome Miami Hurricanes linebacker, and the grandson of Bob Marley. Yeah, that Bob Marley. That's his grandson, who's going to be playing really good 4-star linebacker in the class of 2024. Miami will need to make an impression with this player because, after losing out on Nesta, now Miami already has a couple of linebackers I really like committed for this class, Cameron Pruitt and Vincent Shavers. I think they'd like to take at least 3, if not 4 linebackers in this class. Miami is heavily pushing for Adarius Hayes, who, according to Gabby Urrutia from Inside the U, Adarius Hayes has become Miami's top linebacker target. He's verbally committed to Florida, so you would have to flip him in order to get him. And Chris Cole is another major target in this class, and Miami is competing with the likes of Georgia. Georgia wants Cole. I can't even really say if it's down to 2 or 3 or 4 for him, because he's being recruited by a lot of top universities, but I do hear a lot of buzz for Georgia. In recent weeks, I heard some buzz from Miami, so we'll see if Miami can nail the official visit this weekend. But, okay, he's not the player that I teased before. Talking about a player that I thought Miami was out of it for, that Miami are now back in it for, firmly back in the race for 4-star tight end Corey Duff, goes by KJ Duff, 6'5", 200-pound tight end out of St. Anthony's in Riverhead, New York. And I think based on, his skill set, he's a little bit slighter of frame, but I think based on his skill set, I think he would complement Elijah Lofton very well, because Lofton is more of the well-rounded, tight end, really likes to block and help you in a lot of different ways, where Corey Duff maybe more of the pure pass catcher, jumbo wide receiver type. I think that can make an interesting pair. So Miami had been basically completely out of his recruitment, Duff's, very recently. It was my understanding, I was told this within the past week that Miami staff had basically stopped recruiting him. I don't exactly know why, but he wasn't being recruited anymore. And he had narrowed down his 2 finalists to Rutgers and North Carolina, with Rutgers holding a big lead, according to On3. But things have picked back up with Duff. Perhaps this has something to do with Florida landing Amir Jackson, who is a Miami target. That's only a guess on my part. But Corey Duff, I think it was yesterday, he told Chad Simmons, the recruiting director from On3, that Miami is back in it. In fact, Duff, he's going to be on campus this weekend. He's going to be on campus tomorrow, Thursday. Maybe he's on his way here right now. I don't know. But KJ Duff is going to be working out in front of Miami's coaches at Legends Camp tomorrow. And he's going to be visiting this weekend. So, things were kind of at 0 with him, and then they've gone back up to 60. So 0 back to 60 very quickly for KJ Duff. So there's a lot there. There's probably a lot that I left unsaid, but it's only Wednesday. I'm going to be out at Legends Camp tomorrow. At least I plan to be out there. Hopefully get some pictures and videos, and we'll talk about it on tomorrow's episode. And yeah, we still have couple more days this week before those a lot of these official visits even start, because some of the players like Kamarion Franklin and KJ Duff are going to be working out or competing at Legends Camp. A lot of the other official visitors are not going to be arriving until Friday into Sunday. So we have a lot to talk about the rest of the week, and that's what the everydayers have to look forward to, my friends. We're going to be covering all these Miami recruiting situations, and we'll probably have some more guests on. Brian Monroe, former Miami Hurricanes player. I've been hosting the Joe Rose Show with him in the morning on 560 WQAM this week. We've been guest hosting the 560 AM morning show. I think we're going to get him on later this week to talk some Hurricanes football. So got a lot coming up, my friends. And oh, by the way, I wanted to shout out a couple of new 5-star reviews that we received on Apple Podcasts, because we like to shout those out when they come in. Let me pull these up real quick. And you guys are the best. And if you can take a few seconds, if you listen to the audio version of the show, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Odyssey, if you can take a couple minutes and leave us a 5-star review, it goes a long way to spreading the word about Locked On Canes. And we like to shout those reviews out on the show. So we got this one by Southwest Florida Cane, Caleb, who says, as an avid everydayer, I can confidently say that Alex Donno is in the top tier of Miami Hurricanes content creators. There are many who try to do what he does, but they fall well short. I watched this man be stricken with influenza, and his wife tried telling him to take the day off and rest. Did he listen? Heck no. And you know what? I should have listened, because somehow I was nursing that flu for 2 full weeks. If I'd listened to my wife, I probably would have been better in 5 days, but I never listened. And I'm glad you appreciate it. He hopped up, put on a Canes shirt, and then proceeded to give us great content as always. Not since the Jordan flu game in '97 have I seen that kind of testicular fortitude. Simply put, if you love all things Miami Hurricanes, you better be subscribed to Locked On Canes. P.S. If you're able to subscribe to the subtext, and the man himself will text you daily with inside scoops. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for subscribing to the subtext as well. We got another one from Please Say Mr. Blue, who says, 5-star review. He says, hey, I listen to your show every day. I love to hear updates about the U. I remember crying when Ohio State cheated us out of our championship. I did as well. Yeah. I mean, really, it wasn't really Ohio State that cheated us out of it. It was Terry Porter, the official, who threw the flag, but maybe they paid him off. I don't know. Somebody cheated us out of that. He says, been waiting forever to get back to the glory days and make the whole nation respect us again. Keep up with the wonderful shows, bro. Oh, yeah. Rising freshman, class of 2027. My son, Jannard Young, running back for Vero Beach High School. Be on the lookout. All right, I will. So I'm definitely going to. And by the way, please say, Mr. Blue, if you have any film of your, I know 2027 is a little ways down the road, but if you have, any film or any sort of highlights you can send our way, you can email those to lockedoncanes@gmail.com. We will talk to you guys again tomorrow on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.